My favorite thing about Shipt since I signed up for Target Circle 360? No price markups when I order same-day delivery from tons of local stores. Only a handful of alcohol retailers and items don't count. I won't lie, I've had too much fun being like, markups on groceries? Not in my fridge. Markups on pet food? Not for my DOG. Markups on tools, electronics, home goods, meds? Not in my house. Anyway, it's awesome. Order now at shipt.com/360. Terms apply.
Hey friends, this is Audie Cornish, host of CNN This Morning and The Assignment, and guess what? Every story you care about, every angle you want unpacked is now streaming on CNN. That means you can catch my show or other CNN programming whenever you want on your favorite device. And a subscription also gets you access to exclusive video series and unlimited articles. So subscribe to CNN at cnn.com/subscription.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, well, more than 400,000 New Yorkers have done early voting for the New York City mayor's race. This is a biggie. And so far, the numbers are showing that most of them, at least a big portion of them, predominantly anywhere from 55 to 60%, could be over 55 years old. That could be a good sign for Andrew Cuomo and a good sign to hopefully block Zohran Mamdani. But then there are other bad news signs for people who care about New York City and America. Some of these new polls coming out, and one of them showing, it's an Emerson poll, showing Zohran Mamdani hitting the 50% mark. He had never hit that mark before, but in one poll, he is doing just that with Andrew Cuomo at 25%. Then there is a Marist poll with Zohran Mamdani, 48%, 32% for Cuomo. And the Quinnipiac poll that came out a few days ago, 43% for Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo at 33%. So, and in that one, Curtis Sliwa, 14%. So you look at the numbers, clearly Zohran Mamdani, according to the polls, has a pretty significant lead. But if it's tighter than the polls are showing, like this one on Quinnipiac, where it's only a 10-point spread, then maybe there's a chance between now and Election Day to make sure that Zohran Mamdani does not become the most extreme radical mayor in American history. So everybody get out and vote. There are still a few more days of early voting. If you're in New York City or if you have relatives or friends in New York City, the show, Rita Cosby Show, is heard across the nation. I am imploring you, not just for the sake of New York City, but the sake of America. This will start an incredibly dangerous trend. And the more we learn about this guy, the more troubling it is. We often say on the Katz and Cosby Show at 5 o'clock that he is a clear and present danger. And I believe he's the most dangerous politician of my lifetime. This guy and his radical policies will not only destroy New York, he'll destroy America, he'll destroy the Democratic Party. So everybody get out and vote for who you think has the best chance. And clearly it looks like Cuomo, if you look at the polls, handily, he is number 2. And handily, it's clear that Curtis Sliwa is number 3. And that means you got to get out and vote like your life depends on it, like New York City depends on it. And there are a lot of people that have come out and said, you know what, they're maybe not Andrew Cuomo fans, but they're voting for Cuomo just because they see him as clearly having the best chance to beat Zohran Mamdani. And anything can happen, guys. We have covered a lot of crazy polls through the years. So you never know. You got to get out and vote. That is imperative. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. And of course, every day we get crazier and crazier things that seem to come out to just reinforce how radical Zohran Mamdani is. The latest one is a video that came out that just was revealed. Now, he's an assemblyman, remember, from Queens, a very unremarkable assemblyman from Queens who really hasn't done anything and clearly is very unremarkable, unsuccessful, missed 80% of the votes, never passed a bill. So you look at all of those things. Here he is. He's an assemblyman. And at this moment, this is what he says. This is in July 2023. It is right before October 7th. Remember, it's just right before October 7th, a few months before. He's an assemblyman. He's supposed to be a man with dignity, I guess, or whatever. You run for office, you should be an example, I believe. And he's screaming like a madman. It reminded me, remember when he was screaming at Tom Homan? Remember when Tom Homan was in Albany and he was talking about the immigration policies, the borders are Tom Homan? And he gets up there and Zohran Mamdani, that was the first time I had ever even heard of Zohran Mamdani. He was probably doing that to make some headlines because everybody's like, who's this crazy guy screaming at him? I thought he was somebody who broke into the Albany legislature. But it turned out it's the guy who's the Queen's assemblyman. And it was this crazy Zohran Mamdani who was screaming, Tom Homan, Tom Homan. We got to find that because it was so nutty and so preposterous when he was doing that. It just was shocking. And you'll hear the same tone here, guys, because here he is. This is in New York. He's in Midtown Manhattan. He's at a demonstration, a anti-Israel, what a surprise, demonstration. And in this case, he is bashing anybody who supports Israel. And he's screaming at the top of his lungs, fervently shouting. You see him screaming, talking about defunding Israeli settler violence. So it's all about the terrible, horrible Israelis and anybody who would support our great ally, Israel. And the Palestinians are wonderful, and Hamas is wonderful. So listen to this guy. This is, again, in the context, remember, right before October 7th. Take a listen.
So who is ready to end the exception? I want to hear you say, not on our dime! Not on our dime! Not on our dime! Not on our dime!
Not on our dime. Like no U.S. dollars should go to support our ally Israel. I mean, this guy is a fanatic. Do you hear him screaming? This is an assemblyman. And this is the guy who's going to have policies that will determine where money goes and judges who get appointed. I mean, this is frightening. The more you hear, you're like, this guy is a rabid, true, anti-Semitic, true believer. And that's what frightens, I think, so many people. And the fact that he is on the verge right now, if you look at the polls, unless you get everybody you know out to vote between now and Tuesday. That's what we're begging you tonight here on the Rita Cosby Show. Save New York, save America. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. And again, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because Zohran Mamdani's father, also, the more we hear about the father who was his mentor and the guy he looks up to, this is a Columbia University professor. He's written a whole bunch of books. He wrote one book where he was praising suicide bombers, saying they were misunderstood. What a unpatriotic, horrible thing to say, but that's what the father says, and that's clearly what the father believes, and obviously passes on to his son. And here is more from the father. Here's a video that just came out. Here is the father equating Abraham Lincoln with Hitler. Abraham Lincoln, who freed the slaves, was one of the most, the most incredible president when you think about it in history. I mean, what a hero, going up against so many people and fighting for what was right and just and turned the course of history. But that's not good enough for Zohran Mamdani. Somehow Abraham Lincoln, because he played a role in America, he equates with Hitler. This guy is really twisted. This is the father of Zohran Mamdani.
America is the genesis of what we call settler colonialism. And the American model was exported all around the world. Abraham Lincoln generalized the solution of reservations. They herded American Indians into separate territories. For the Nazis, this was the inspiration. Hitler realized two things. One, that genocide was doable. It is possible to do genocide. That's what Hitler realized. Second thing Hitler realized is that you don't have to have a common citizenship. You can differentiate between people. The Nuremberg laws were patterned after American laws. Anyway, the U.S. put Indians in reservations. The U.S. invented the model.
The U.S. invented the model, and let's compare the U.S. to Hitler. And then you couple that with the son who's saying not on our dime. In other words, we shouldn't send one dime to Israel, even though they're an incredible, great ally of ours. So where is this race headed, guys? And could the stakes be any higher? The fact that we are now in this position that a true anti-Semite, I believe some of his positions are clearly anti-American. I believe he is a terrorist sympathizer. He's been hanging around the imam who's the co-conspirator tied to the 1993 World Trade Center bomber. He's been hanging around Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11. These are his friends. And this guy is about to take over potentially the Gracie Mansion of New York. That's the mayor's office. Let's hope not, guys. That means you got to get out and vote. There are still many days left. Not a lot, but plenty of time to get out to the voting booth and plenty of time to call every single friend, relative, neighbor, stranger. I don't care who it is. As long as they live in New York City, get them out to vote. That is the absolute key. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And here is Elise Stefanik, because, of course, the New York Congresswoman, who many believe may run for governor next year against Kathy Hochul. She has yet to announce, obviously, but a lot of people would love to see her. I think she would be great in there. But she came out today, and this is what she thinks of Zohran Mamdani.
Our response is to compare Abraham Lincoln to Adolf Hitler is un-American. Abraham Lincoln is the proud founder of the Republican Party. He emancipated millions of Americans. He is the ultimate American president that no matter what your political affiliation, you should admire and strive. And this is a disgrace. It shows that Zohran Mamdani's campaign continues to go down this path towards anti-Americanism that's deeply out of touch with the American people. And I think about, Harris, the veterans in my district. When I meet World War II veterans, many of their colleagues and men did not come home that they served with. That's the ultimate sacrifice. This is a smear on all of our veterans, and it's a smear on all fellow Americans. So this is a very important mayoral election. We need to stop Mamdani. And it's really unthinkable that a little over 20 years since 9/11, you could have a pro-Hamas jihadist, full-blown communist who wants to defund the police as mayor of the greatest city in the world.
It is shocking, guys. Let's go to Robert on line one. The number's 1-800-848-9222. Robert, boy, oh boy, your thoughts tonight.
Well, I want to congratulate Dov Hykins, who you had on 5 o'clock, for switching to support Cuomo. And also Ina Vernikov, my council person. She's Republican.
By the way, Ina will be on tomorrow on Katz and Cosby. We have her, I think it's 5:15, so make sure you tune in.
And because the only chance was Cuomo. Now, the Quinnipiac poll that you mentioned earlier, that amongst Jewish people, Protestants, Catholics, Cuomo is winning. Even amongst other religions, it's pretty close. It's not that distant apart. People who have no religion, apparently there's a huge discrepancy, but it might be much closer Cuomo's chance. Now, there's a.
By the way, Robert, I agree. And clearly Cuomo is in second, and often polls are wrong. And often, people don't say what they think to people calling on the phone, pollsters. So I agree. Robert, do me a favor. I'm going to take a break. I want to carry you over into the next hour, if you could, in the next segment, if you could. We're going to go to a quick hard break, and then we're going to continue with Robert and the rest of your calls, guys. 1-800-848-9222.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
Well, we would like to forget about you, Zohran Mamdani, but new video keeps coming up. And it also reminds us, we just played that crazy one where he was screaming before October 7th. This is in July. And actually, I want to go back to that again first. Let's do 25 first. This is Zohran Mamdani again in July, and you hear him blasting Israel, screaming at the top of his lungs. He is an assemblyman in New York, but he sounds like a raving lunatic.
So who is ready to end the exception? I want to hear you say, not on our dime! Not on our dime! Not on our dime!
We're not going to spend a dime helping Israel. Globalizing the Intifada. That's his mission. He is saying it loud and clear. And it reminds me a lot, as I mentioned, of the Zohran Mamdani who was in Albany. And when Tom Homan, the border czar, made an appearance there, Zohran Mamdani went crazy. Take a listen to this.
How many more New Yorkers without charge? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? How many more New Yorkers without charge?
That is the guy who wants to be mayor and is leading in the polls right now for New York mayor. God help us, guys. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go back to Robert on line one. Go ahead, Robert.
Okay, I got something even worse. Ina Vernikov just tweeted out a video clip. This was apparently in 2023, around August of 2023, where he says, quote, Mamdani in 2023 says, quote, when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF, unquote. Let me repeat that, quote. When the boot of the NYPD, the New York Police Department, is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, unquote. Horrific. And you know when he said this, the New York Post covers it and CBS News has it on their websites. New York Post said that he mentioned this. He was the keynote speaker in the 2023 Democrat Socialists of America National Convention.
Exactly,
okay?
Exactly.
And let me finish. Wait 1 second. He was on a panel. Look into the panel. He made a comment when he was on a panel called, quote, Socialist Internationalism, the solution to the crisis of capitalism, unquote. Okay? So he was the keynote speaker, 2023 Democrat Socialists of America. He's on a panel called, quote, Socialist Internationalism, the solution to the crisis of capital, unquote. And he's trying to connect hyperlocal and international issues.
No, you're right, because that's the issue with him, that he kind of keeps saying the boot of the NYPD, and then he ties it to IDF. So he clearly has great despise for the NYPD and the Israeli Defense Forces. What a nice guy.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Upland, California, where a California family avoided tragedy after a police officer helped revive and save their choking baby. Now, a California family faced a terrifying afternoon when their baby girl suddenly began choking, but fortunately, help was just a few minutes away. And the 911 call came in, and when authorities arrived on the scene, a police officer rushed to the mother who was carrying the limp baby in her arms. She immediately cried out to the officer saying, please, please help my baby. Then the officer took the infant, placed her on top of his vehicle, and immediately began trying to clear her airway and starting CPR. Police said that as paramedics arrived, the officer was able to get the baby to breathe again. The baby was then rushed to the hospital and is expected to make a full recovery. Extraordinary teamwork and fast action by the authorities, by the law enforcement, especially the police there in Upland, California, that saved that little baby's life. And bravo, of course, to our great men and women in blue across the country. We love them and appreciate them here on the Rita Cosby Show. Well, Robert from Brooklyn, who just called in, he was talking about the audio. It's video and audio where you see Zohran Mamdani, clear as day, trying to bash the NYPD and bash Israel yet again, the IDF, and a whole bunch of other things all in one statement. As Robert was aptly saying, he was the keynote speaker, Zohran Mamdani, for the Democratic Socialists of America convention. And this wasn't that long ago. This was 2023. Zohran Mamdani says, I'm not anti-police. This guy has anti-police written all over him. And I can even tell even by the comments he's making now. But then if you even go back even just a few months or a year or two, his comments are downright vile and repeatedly vile. So here he is. This is what Robert was talking about. I wanted to play it for you guys. This is the video from Zohran Mamdani in 2023.
I think in the first question, there is this setting up of a context where this idea of hyper-local and international. And I think that for anyone to care about these issues, we have to make them hyper-local. We have to make clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. Right? We have to make, not specifically that example all the time, but just to say that for working class people who have very little time, who have so many stresses, who are under so many pressures, there isn't that much time for symbolism. We have to make it materially connected to their life. And I think that what opportunity we have is that we're in a country where those connections abound, especially in New York City. You have so many opportunities to make clear the ways in which that struggle over there is tied to capital's interest over here.
Isn't that great? Because there's so much symbolism in New York City. So his symbolism to let people understand what he thinks of the NYPD and what he thinks of the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, is an NYPD boot on your neck and laced by the IDF. Isn't that creative? And this guy is on the brink right now of maybe being mayor of New York City. Let's hope not, guys. We got to get out and vote. And a lot of people are concerned about this, guys, not just the law enforcement, everybody, I think, in law enforcement, and anybody who loves law enforcement should never, ever vote for this guy. And here is another thing. Half of New Yorkers, this is a new poll, roughly 40% of those polled believe that crime levels will spike in the Big Apple under Mamdani's leadership. 45% also fear that anti-Semitism would surge. I want to know who the other 50% is on both of these, because 100% crime is going to increase and 100% anti-Semitism is going to surge. This guy is bad news. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to BJ in Queens. BJ, your thoughts tonight.
Hey, Rita, happy trick-or-treat a day before.
Yeah, it sure is. Happy. It feels like, I feel like when I talk about Mamdani, it's a bad trick. It's a bad dream.
Well, all of what you say about Mamdani is correct. All you need to do is look at England and Ireland, and you will see exactly what's waiting for everybody over here, especially the women.
You know what, BJ? I actually think it's going to be worse. Just from an overall perspective, I think it's going to be worse because this guy is so fanatical.
Well, you know what, Rita? Here's the thing. And this is probably the only thing I agree with Andrew Cuomo on, and that is if you vote for Mamdani, you're voting for Trump. That is to say, I think Donald Trump's going to have a lot of fun with this guy if this guy gets in. I didn't vote for Mamdani, and I didn't vote for Cuomo, I voted my conscience because I deserve someone who, in my opinion, is the right man for the right job. Now, people aren't smart enough to elect him. Then maybe it's not the place for me. Maybe New York is not the place for me.
BJ, I'm going to just say to you, and obviously everybody has a choice to make every vote that they want to do. I always feel like people are allowed to. On the other hand, this is not a normal election. This is absolutely not a normal election. You have the opportunity to try to block someone who will probably be the most dangerous politician in probably our lifetimes, and you don't do it. So I'm just saying straight out, BJ, that is not. I'm just telling you that if you look at the polls, it is clear who is number 2 at this point. And it's not a slight on Curtis. It's not a slight on, if Curtis was right there on the back door of Mamdani, that would be a different story. He's not. None of the polls show that. So he's not. So the unfortunate thing is at this point, unless people strategically vote, whoever they think can defeat Mamdani. And if you look at the polls, it's pretty clear who's number 2, handily number 2. I think you are electing Mamdani. I'm sorry to say that. And I love you, BJ, but I'm sorry to say that because now this is crunch time. And the fact that I saw a poll today that had Mamdani at 50%, you cannot waste a vote. I'm just telling you, you cannot waste a vote. You're going to have an anti-Semitic, rabid Islamist in Gracie Mansion. You got to separate conscience from making sure you don't have a rabid nut in Gracie Mansion. I'm just telling you. I mean, the math is the math. I wish it was differently, but that's the fact.
Well, look at the math. The math has Andrew Cuomo 20 points behind. So, and the math also does not have... But the math
has Curtis like 40 points behind. So, you know what? 30, 40 points behind. So you know what? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out where you got to go.
Rita, how many of those votes will go from Curtis to Cuomo? Can you tell me?
If Curtis had embraced Cuomo, which he never would do. By the way, Eric Adams doesn't like Cuomo. He's out there campaigning with him because he loves New York City.
Guy. He was a 4% guy. He was out. He was out, and Donald Trump backed the wrong horse by backing Eric Adams. He should have stayed out of there. Eric Adams actually won this race. If you really look at this, he's clearly the winner. There's more than one winner here. And he's clearly the winner. He got all those charges removed. He probably has a nice job lined up. And by the way,
BJ, Eric Adams right now looks like a good guy because he backed out. It's nothing against wherever the polls are. And believe me, I wish it was differently. This is by no means. I mean, I've seen people saying some pretty terrible things about Curtis. I'm not going to go there. What I will say is I'm looking at the numbers, and this is not, if it was a regular race, I'd say free for all. Everybody go there. Everybody vote your conscience. Do that. You have to be practical. I'm not going to vote for somebody who's not going to win. I'm not saying who I'm going to vote for, but I'm just telling you right now, you got to vote for someone who can block. If you had a choice, he can't win because you're not going to vote for somebody like that. I'm not necessarily saying, by the way, I'm not sure where I'm voting. I'll be honest with you, BJ. But I'm telling you, I will do whatever it takes to block Mamdani when I go to the voting booth. That's what I'm going to do. And whoever it was, Mary Poppins was out there. If there was a 2-year-old kid who was running, who was number 2, I'd pick that person. I would because I'd have more faith.
You'd do much better.
I'd have more faith in a 2-year-old kid than Mamdani. That's how scared I am of Mamdani, and that's how scared New York and America should be.
Rita, we love you. We don't want you to be scared. You know what? I'm a realist, and that's why, BJ, this guy is nuts, and he has a lot of crazy people around him, and anything anybody can do to block him. There are a lot of people that we had on Nick Langworthy earlier today on Katz and Cosby. He was the former GOP chair of New York. Yeah. And he said he
is suggesting to people to vote for Cuomo because he loves New York and he is so worried about what's going to happen to New York City. Dov Hikind, who was an enormous Curtis supporter, he was on today, said the same thing. He is so worried what he's going to do to the Jewish community. Ina Vernikov, who is a big supporter, of course.
There's another one.
But I'm just, these are stalwart supporters. But you know what the bottom line is? You know what? I don't want to see Mamdani in Gracie Mansion. And that is the bottom line, and nor should you, BJ. Nor should you.
No, I don't either. That's why I voted for someone who represents my ideals and my values. Someone who kept us hostage during the pandemic, who took $5 million for a book deal while we were all sewn up.
BJ, I'm not going to sit here and advocate. I hear you.
So
Believe me, BJ, who did the toughest interview probably ever with Andrew Cuomo? I did. So don't sit and lecture me. Don't sit and lecture me about Andrew Cuomo.
No one's lecturing you.
But don't you dare, BJ, because you know what's going to happen? You're going to see this guy in Gracie Mansion because you feel good for voting for someone who has 13%. That's the reality, BJ. I hope you can sleep well at night because you know what? I'm not going to sleep well if Zohran Mamdani's in the mayor's office.
I did because I voted my conscience that I didn't sell my values out to someone who got away with breaking every law while keeping us all locked up during the pandemic. Did you like the Summer of Love? Because if
guess what? Guess what's going to happen? Guess what's going to happen? And BJ, look, I hear what you're saying. I'm not defending that. You know I'm not. You know me. But you know what? If you don't like the Summer of Love, you just put it on steroids if Mamdani gets in. That's the bottom line. That is the bottom line, BJ. BJ, look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. That's the bottom line. And I'm sorry to say that, BJ. BJ, look, if there had been some knockout moment, even during the debate, that could have changed the dial. That didn't happen.
Curtis won those debates.
No, he didn't. I'm sorry to say it. He didn't. And BJ, he could have.
I was at them both.
He could have.
At them both.
BJ, you're looking at the wrong debates, and you're clearly looking at the wrong polls. I'm telling you, BJ. BJ, he didn't.
The polls, I don't vote on polls. I
don't either, but I can tell you he didn't win the debate. He's capable of doing that, BJ, and he didn't. He didn't. I know him. I wish I would have loved for him to turn during that debate. I would have loved, BJ, hold on a second. I would have loved for him during the debate to spend less time going after Cuomo and gone after Mamdani because he has it in him. Curtis has done a lot of great things. I'm never going to take away from what he's done from the Guardian Angels. And I'm not going to trash him, but I am looking at the numbers, and I'm deeply troubled, BJ, and you should be too. You should be too. You know what?
I'm not troubled.
I'd love to have, I'd love to have Pope Francis. I'm just saying.
Not troubled.
I am.
Troubled.
Well, you should be, because guess what? When Zohran Mamdani gets into Gracie Mansion, you will be troubled.
This was a long time in the making. And people didn't pay any attention to it, and this is what you get.
Exactly right. And Curtis had
warned people for years.
Curtis had months to drop out. They should have consolidated. They should have all met and had some. Imagine what this moment would have looked like if there had been a cohesive ticket. Whoever's on the ticket, I'm not even going to say who or what, but if there had been a one-on-one cohesive ticket at this moment against Mamdani, whoever it is, I'm just saying whatever it is, whatever the deal was, if it was, imagine if it was Republican, Democrat, Independent, everybody out there behind one candidate, whoever that is. The bottom line is that's not happening, and the vote is splitting, and Mamdani may get in very well. And that would be a big reason. And that's a travesty for New York.
It won't be Curtis's fault.
You know what? He should have gotten out. When you're low behind, I would have taken the hit.
You're trying to blame Curtis for running.
I'm not blaming him. I'm blaming the numbers. I'm blaming. And guess what, BJ, New York is 70. BJ is 70% Democrat. 70%. It's an uphill battle, even if it's a great candidate. It's an uphill battle. And this is not a moment. This is not a moment where Rudy Giuliani, when he was there and did a great job and was able to turn it around. That's not the case at this moment. If you look at the numbers, it's an uphill battle. And BJ, I'm one of the last people, by the way, at this station to even suggest that maybe Curtis should drop out. I still don't even like saying that. But I'm also very worried about Mamdani, and I'm not afraid to say that part. And you should be too, because anybody who's minimizing the threat from this guy and thinks just voting because it makes them feel better, I wish that were the case, BJ. It saddens me that it's not. And I'm one of the last people. I've been defending Curtis more than anybody almost on this station. So I don't want to hear it from you. We'll be back.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's continue with your calls, guys. I am glad that people are passionate and getting out and voting. We are told, I think it's 398,000 so far is the latest number of early voting in New York City. And polls are open tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, and then, of course, on Election Day on Tuesday, which is right around the corner. You got to get out and vote. We talk about it. Fight, 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 everybody. You have to fight for New York and do what's right for the city. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Sandra in New Jersey. Go ahead, Sandra, your thoughts tonight.
Oh, I have to tell you, Rita, lately, more than ever before in my life, I feel a very, very, very close connection to the Jewish people. And I think more so than ever because Mamdani is running for mayor, and I feel threatened. I'm concerned, and I feel shoulder to shoulder, strength in numbers. I want to be closer and closer to the Jewish people. That's what I'm feeling. I feel like the anti-Semitism here and abroad is an issue, and shared values, faith, family, freedom, love of our country. These are under attack, and it's just like I really love the Jewish people more than ever, and I feel a closeness to them. And anytime I meet someone new that happens to be Jewish, I just feel a closeness, and I don't even know them.
Yeah, wait, and you know what? I have such respect. I'm not Jewish, and Sandra, I've mentioned it. My father grew up right outside the Warsaw Ghetto and tried to help those inside and outside, and saw what happened, sadly, in World War II, and was such a huge supporter of the Jewish people. And I agree with you. I feel like their fight is everybody's fight, and to make sure that good people stand together and stand as one. And when you hear these horrible anti-Semitic comments coming from this guy, and let's not forget, New York has the biggest Jewish population outside of Israel, New York City. And says he wants to be mayor for everybody. How are you going to be mayor for everybody when on one hand, out of the next side of your mouth, you're talking these horrible, vile anti-Semitic comments? And I think what you're saying is so beautiful and so powerful. And I'm a big believer, wherever you are politically, to stand strong and to make sure you stand against this guy when you go to the voting booth. And you got to think about that. Sandra, I know you have a lot of friends in New York, so you got to make sure that you call every single one of them and make sure they get out to vote and this guy doesn't get in.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?